Hello and welcome to the Crimson Stitchery, a video channel about making all things beautiful and useful. My name is Anushka and you can find me elsewhere online as A Sour Telling, that's A Sour Telling, and that is my username on Instagram and on Ravelry. And on Ravelry we also have a Ravelry group for this podcast channel, so do head over there, check it out. There are loads of really lovely, friendly people and there's lots of chatter threads. It's where we host knit-alongs, there's a lot of guidance and suggestions and so on. Links and all associated notes for this episode can be found in the down bar here on YouTube, so do click down onto there in order to find out more information. And on that note, I have a few announcements to make ahead of this video content, which is that I will be speaking at Unravel Festival of Yarn in Farnham Maltings, which is in Surrey in the southeast of England, and I'm going to be giving a talk on mending, and that talk will be happening on the Sunday, the 23rd of February, which is the last day of the festival. So tickets are still available. Please let me know if you're planning on attending Unravel, and if you might come to my talk, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to see some of you there. Secondly, the first anniversary of this YouTube channel is fast approaching in February, and for that I'm going to be recording a Q&A, a special kind of question and answer video episode for you guys, and I've opened up a Q&A question thread over in the Ravelry group in the forum. I think most people watching, most knitters and crocheters will probably have a Ravelry account already, but if you don't, do go ahead and make one. It's free and it's free to join the group. And the reason that I'm keeping the questions in the group forum thread as opposed to on YouTube is just literally so that it's all in one place, it's static and it's very easy to access. So please do head over there and ask a question. Feel free to ask technical questions as well, although if it requires a very long answer, it's possible that I might address those questions in a separate video. But please do go ahead and ask a question. As well as technical questions, I do welcome light-hearted questions, because there's a couple of questions in there that are quite thought-provoking and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to answer them yet. So yeah, do go ahead into there and pop in a question if that is your jam. Lastly, I just want to say hello to any new subscribers and followers. We've had a bit of an influx of new people to this channel in the last couple of weeks. Many people who have found me because of the Stashless 2020 videos and the kind of decluttering and tidying up videos that I've made. I had no idea that so many people would enjoy watching me roll around in yarn, but I guess it kind of comes with the territory. So hello to new subscribers, and I wanted to let you know that I do write a monthly newsletter. It's just like another little injection of all of this into your inbox, but in the written form. So if you enjoy colour, pictures of yarn and knitting, and my various ponderous thoughts on different things, do sign up for the newsletter. I promise that I will not be inundating you with too many emails or anything like that. It's just kind of something a little bit extra that I love to do. So the link for the newsletter sign up and for the Ravelry group can be found, as I said, in the show notes in the down bar here on YouTube. Okay, that's that. We've got quite a lot to cover in this episode. I've been doing a fair bit of crafting. I've also got the prizes to announce. I'll be doing the prize draw for the Crimson WIPalong, which was an initiative that happened over last autumn 2019 about clearing off our works in progress and kind of coming into this year now with a fresh start, which I think has been pretty successful. And there are lots of different prizes and I'll be announcing those at the end of the video in conversational threads. So please do keep watching and stick around, because like I said, people were really generous with prize donations. There are a lot of people and there were a lot of winners, so keep watching if you took part in the Crimson WIPalong. I also have a book review. I'll be doing a review of the latest publication from KDD & Co, which is Kate Davies Designs, and it's the book Warm Hands, edited by Jeanette Sloan and Kate Davies, and Jeanette very kindly sent me a review copy of Warm Hands and I'm very happy to be discussing it today on the podcast. So let's just get straight into it and I'll talk about what is in my knitting basket. So, well, firstly, I've remembered to wear the right jumper today. Fittingly, this caterpillar jumper, it's a scrap project which was inspired by a pattern called Caterpillar by Kay Fassett in a back issue of Rowan magazine. But I made loads of modifications as usual, as I always do, from the gauge, the stripe pattern, the yarns chosen. I modified the way that the shoulder was cut. It was very drop shoulder and I modified it to just be a regular kind of set-in sleeve. I changed the cowl neck and made it a bit smaller. So that's kind of me, that's what I always do. And yeah, I'm really enjoying wearing it. It's super cozy. I've got to say that I am really glad that I trusted my instincts with this one, because when I knitted it well, the pattern's knitted in pieces, and when I first started putting it together, and I had all of these yarns, and the story of this jumper was that basically I was trying to shut my yarn drawer, which if you've seen my what was it? I'll Help Yarn is Taking Over My Life video. You'll have seen that I've got a coffee table with 2 small drawers, and I really wanted to close one drawer and I basically couldn't because the yarn, there was too much yarn in there and it kept jumping out. So last August I took the yarns that fell out and combined them into a project bag for this jumper. When I first just knit the sleeve, I basically thought it looked crazy and that I was going to look like a clown, but I just gritted my teeth, trusted my instincts and carried on knitting and put together the colours instinctively. And I'm really glad that I did, that I just persevered, because I think it's turned out really beautiful, and actually my first instincts about how colour should be combined and sort of how to lay out the sections of you know, brightness where it stands out and the more muted sections where they kind of blend together much more tonally. Yeah, I trusted my instincts and I think it's come out really beautifully. So yeah, I showed this off a little bit last week. I didn't show off, I don't think, that the back is different. So the stripes and so on are weighted differently across the front and the back. So yeah, that's that one. So yeah, here is the finished kind of cardigan that I showed last week. So last time I was working on the lace yoke, and ooh, what's the best way of showing this? As you can see, I've now finished that and the cardigan has now all been knitted. So what's remaining is seaming. So it was knit in one piece from the bottom up, sleeves and body bottom up, joined at the yoke and then yeah, finished up together. And the pattern is, I think it's called Morganite. It's from a back issue of Pom Pom. But I do my best to link in the project names on the projects in my Ravelry. But because I use a lot of older patterns, I went into this more in last fortnight's episode, where basically I'm just trying to, for the last couple of years I've been trying to use up the things that are already on my bookshelf. So a lot of the time it's kind of older patterns that might not be in print. You might be that you have to get the digital copy only and things like that. Hence this jumper's from a really old pattern, like, oh, probably from like 2001 or something like that. And this one's, the pattern I think was published in 2013, I think. Yeah, so that one's already, wow, 7 years old already. So I made a lot of modifications to this pattern in that I added pockets, which I like to do on cardies. In the past I've been a bit shy about my pocket size, and this one I think I'm still a bit shy. I think the depth is okay, but it could have been wider. It could really have been wider. So that's something to note. Get more confident with pocket size and knitting. They always just seem so big. It always seems like so many stitches when you're marking off for the pocket, but actually I need to just stick with it and go with the pocket. So yeah, I added pockets, and then another variation I made is that the pattern is crew neck and it's buttoned from the top here and then it's open, and I wanted it the other way around. I wanted to button it up here and then have it open out to a V-neck, and so that's what I did. So I did a lot of fiddling around with the numbers and the details and stuff, and I basically took the button band, which is knitted in with the cardigan, Hope that you can see that that's a buttonhole, that's a buttonhole. And then I carried it on up the lace yoke, did some decreases, you can see the stitch markers, did some decreases on like the inside edge of the buttonhole. And then I basically did my best to carrying it on up. You can see that it just goes up from one piece and then joins in with the neck. Did a bunch of short rows. I've got to say that the pattern directions to the yoke were not that clear, and even for me as an experienced knitter that's you know, confident with lace and is confident with garment construction, I just found it a bit, yeah, just unclear is the best way of putting it. I don't have a problem with having to make decisions as a knitter. Like, I don't need everything laid out for me. It's just, there were certain things which I felt like I took a massive leap of faith on, which were fine, but sometimes my numbers didn't add up and I just had to keep fudging it. So I don't know why that is. And I think, yeah, I don't know why that is, but anyway, it kind of worked out okay. I totally guessed what I had to do with the short rows, and it just kind of happened to work out, basically. So what I then did was I did is it like an applied edge, where you start knitting together the edging with the main part of the knitting, like on a shawl. So I did that there all the way up the back of the neck, which connected up the vertical button band. It connected it up and made it go horizontal, because I think from about here or so I just started knitting it in with the neck. But yeah, it's like an applied edge basically. And then it got to the top and I did a 3 needle bind off in the middle, and it's turned out quite nicely. It's made out of a Portuguese yarn called Rosarios Principe Real, and it's a blend of cotton, silk and linen, and it's an Aran weight yarn. And I knit this quite loosely. I'd used it before and I'd knit it very tightly, and it was just quite heavy when it was tight, and just going up half a needle size from, I think it was 4.5 to 5mm needles. So I knit this one on a slightly bigger needle, and it's changed a lot. Like, from being very tight it now feels very loose, so there doesn't seem to be a middle ground with this yarn. And yeah, I've got to do the finishing, I've got to weave in the ends, I've got to secure the pockets. It's very, very drapey and heavy. I think you can tell the way it's kind of swinging around. So I'm considering going up through this raglan this raglan kind of section here, and basically seaming up the middle 2 stitches just to add a bit of structure. And yeah, I've got to sew up under the arms as well, because armpit ventilation. Yeah, so it's not finished yet. And then because of the weight, when I try it on, when I actually wear it, it kind of feels like it gets longer and longer and longer. And this is meant to be a summer cardigan, so it's actually going to be quite nice to throw on over a pair of slacks and a t-shirt, or over a narrow summer dress, and just kind of be all like swishy and nice. So yeah, it's not quite finished yet. I just forced myself to finish the knitting, and then for about a week and a half it's just been sitting on a pile on the arm of the sofa. So I do still need to finish that. But the next thing I've been working on, I've been doing loads of great work for my destashing for my Stashless 2020 initiative, which is a year-long initiative where I invite you to join me in reducing my stash, my yarn collection. Thank you so much to everybody who has commented on the videos, who has joined in on the Ravelry group, and also started to use the hashtag over on Instagram. It's been really interesting to get everybody's different perspectives, and I'm so thrilled that everybody is really joining in on the spirit of Stashless 2020, which is to reflect on our individual motivations while supporting each other as a group. So I have a bunch of guidelines that I wrote in the Ravelry thread, one of which was this is a judgment-free zone, and another one of which is this is not the confession booth. So I really didn't want it to be the kind of atmosphere, online atmosphere, where people were like self-flagellating for breaking a New Year's resolution or for failure or change. I really just wanted it to be about self-reflection. I am no Marie Kondo, and I'm not going to be taking you on a handheld step-by-step guide to so-called minimalism. That's not what it's about. But you may find through reflecting and thinking quite deeply about your possessions that you want to go and explore that, in which case there are so many resources out there already. But yeah, so I've been doing quite well on that front. Firstly, in the video, I think I pulled out a ball of boucle, and I didn't know what to do with it, basically. And I bought the boucle to do something along the lines of line a hood or knit a collar. It was some kind of lining project. It wasn't like a project on itself. And it was a beautiful, beautiful wool and mohair boucle called Moa from Yebagan, which I bought when I lived in Stockholm. And yeah, the label's gone missing now. But what I ended up doing was casting on a bunch of stitches and just knitting in the round. And unfortunately, I thought that I had 2 balls of the boucle, but it seems like I've only got 1, but whatever. So I've knit in the round and I've ended up with this rectangular shape, and I'm going to make it into a cushion. So that worked out really well, and I held it along with a bunch of stuff, which is very random find that my friend got me. A bag of 100% merino extra fine wool, Italian wool, or maybe, no, is it Italian or German? Oh, La Qualità che vedi, tocchi, indossi, yeah, it's Italian. I was confused because there was some German on there as well. Handelgewicht. Oh, made in Italy, right, sorry about that. Yeah, so this is some really random machine knitting yarn, which is really, 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 really fine. And it had been wound up into all of these little balls, some of which had 2 strands, some had 3, some had 5 held together. Really quite bizarre. And basically my friend found it on the street in a plastic bag, like it was clean. But a good friend of mine has lived for a long time in a neighbourhood that has, from about, what, 5 years ago, just suddenly gentrified, which means that all of the gentrified affluent neighbours seem to do Marie Kondo a lot, and they do a lot of decluttering, and they throw away all this great stuff and leave it on the street. So she just picks it up, and then she found me all of this lovely yarn. I wish that that was the case in my neighbourhood. In my neighbourhood, people very kindly leave old mattresses, trash and broken chairs out on the street. They just don't seem to be able to call up the local council and get them to collect the old mattresses. They just leave them there. Just leave them there. I live in a part of outer London, East London, which has not been gentrified. It's not. To the point where you hear a lot of people complaining about gentrification, like in the newspapers, and like it gets satirised on TV and on Netflix and stuff quite a lot. But my mum's reaction was, I wish we had some gentrification. I would love a coffee shop and a co-working space here. Bring it on. It's like, oh, all we've got is old mattresses on the street. Enough about that. So yeah, my friend gave me all of this lovely stuff that she'd found. I kind of didn't want it, but I didn't really get a choice, which is something that I'm going to talk about actually in a future video for Sasha's 2020. And yeah, so I just, long story short, put it into this cushion. Now it's a little bit too horizontal. I'd like it to be proportionately, it would have been nicer if it was like more like that maybe, but I'm going to leave it as it is. It's going to be a bit like a bolster, and the plan is to do something with a jet black edging, maybe some kind of pom-pom or tassel cushion business. And the plan is also to make a cushion pad out of old clothes. So it's really going to be like a zero waste project. So yeah, the knitting's finished. I'm probably going to do some kind of 3-needle bind off and then do some kind of crochet edging, but we'll see how that one turns out. Really happy about that. And also it feels like a lovely, let me close up on the texture. It's like a shaggy dog. And everybody at my knitting group had great fun watching me knit on this, especially because as I was sort of moving around and knitting, you can imagine that it was sort of like bobbling around, and yeah, it was like a pet dog. Everybody kept coming up and stroking it, so it was quite funny. So that's my cushion. The last project that I've got to show you is the one that I've been working on most over the last fortnight, and it is crochet. So this is a project which I saw on Instagram on the feed of Alison, who is one of the organisers for Unravel Festival, and is the lady that I approached about doing a talk there. So I followed her on Instagram as well, and she put this post up saying, what are you gonna make to wear at Unravel, in which there was this absolutely stunning crochet stripy jumper, and I saw it and I totally got it in my head. I got a real bee in my bonnet about this jumper, and I was just like, I have to make it, I have to make it, I have to make it. Which I feel like doesn't happen to me that often, but it does happen, and when it happens I have to do my best to go with the flow. I also want to add that sometimes this feeling happens to me and I go and make all the relevant purchases, like I order the yarn and blah blah blah, and then something might happen and then suddenly that feeling will pass and I'll never cast on that item, which is a bit of a shame, and I think is one of the reasons why I've got such a backlog of yarn, WIP, works in progress. Just, yeah, too many unfulfilled plans, which I've spoken about at length, and which it seems like I'm not alone, you know, I'm not uniquely in that situation. So anyway, happily I was able to act on that impulse, and the crochet is a pattern called, it's called Eclectic Jumper, but on the Ravelry database it's listed as Eclectic Sweater. So recently I've been finding some small errors in the Ravelry database, from names to colorway, yarn shade names, names of patterns, to even like yarn weights and things like that. And it's because Ravelry, although it's like open user source or something, I'm really technophobe here, it's not like Wikipedia in that not everybody can just go in and change stuff. So sometimes it can be difficult to find things, especially because this is from a print magazine. So obviously if it's like a digital download pattern or a PDF pattern that's been designed to be sold on Ravelry, then it's quite easy to amend. But yeah, there are some difficulties when looking for things in print. So I guess the lesson to be learned is get kind of creative when you're searching for things, because sometimes yeah, it takes a while to find. You have to amend your search terms quite a lot, which, to be honest with you, is what it's like when using databases, full stop. I'm speaking now as a research student. So anyway, Eclectic Jumper slash sweater. Jumper is what English people call what Americans call sweaters, and I understand that what Americans call jumpers, British people call pinafores and pinafore dresses. So they're really quite different garments, but anyway. What to say. So it's from an autumn issue of British Crochet magazine, and I couldn't buy it as an individual pattern. I had to buy the whole digital pattern of the magazine, which involved like opening up an account on the magazine, digital magazine distributor's website. So it wasn't like a straightforward PDF download, but it doesn't, you know, it's not hard. And yeah, work out how to print from it. It's not yeah, it's not the straightforward download PDF experience, but it's certainly not, it's not really an issue. And the pattern called for DK weight yarn. I knew that I wanted to use scrap yarn for it because I'd already used scrap yarn for this jumper here, and I knew that I'd be able to squeeze something out. So I started off by doing my crochet swatch. Now I will say that this is the first crochet garment that I've ever made. I've only ever done cushions and blankets, and I think that's it. Oh, I made one crochet baby sweater, which came out far too small, and the baby came out bigger than anticipated. So that was just, it was like a sweater for a doll baby. I'm sure you know what I mean. So yeah, I did a swatch, and I started off by like playing around with all of the spare scrap yarns that I have, and I made this swatch. And although I combined different weights of yarn, so DK, 4-ply sock yarn held double, one sport weight with a merino, a double layer of Shetland wool. Yeah, anyway, as you can see, it's like all different yarn weights, some single, some double, but my initial swatch, I basically felt like it was hideous. Now I'm looking at it in hindsight, I don't feel as bad about it as I did at the time, but at the time it just wasn't really what I wanted to go for. It was just so dark, and I really didn't like this stripe of white. I didn't feel like it worked. Although, yeah, like I'm saying, now that I'm looking at it separately, I think if I got rid of that white, actually, the rest of the colours aren't too bad, and I kind of like this teal with burgundy. It's a bit weird, but yeah, teal, burgundy and navy. It's kind of weird, but I like it. But anyway, at the time I hated this, and then I was rummaging around in my stash and I found this bright daffodil yellow, which is featured quite heavily in the pattern. So I just ended up approximating something a lot closer to what the pattern had. So the orange is the pattern's orange, the yellow is the pattern's yellow. I think they've got like different shades of olive green and brown that I substituted just for a nutmeg brown. And then the main colour difference was that they've got like a stripe of turquoise. I think the pink one that I've got, this magenta, they had turquoise, and then they had like pink and purple, but I've gone for 2 different shades of red. So I've gone for like a postbox really true red, and then a much bluer, darker red. And I'm using, as well as different weights of yarn, so I've got the orange from that orange cardi you just saw, which is actually Aran weight. I've got a sport weight, sock yarn held double, a single held Shetland 4-ply weight, 2-ply composition, and then this magenta one is held single as well. So it's kind of all over the place, but amazingly it has turned out on gauge. So I got really addicted to making this, and now I feel like I've run out of steam at that classic middle point. So I really do need to keep working on this and yeah, just kind of bust it out, because my aim this year for Stashless 2020 is obviously to work through my stash, don't buy any more sweater quantities of yarn, and finish up my sock scraps one. The second aim is to well, it's actually to make more gifts. So I do have a couple of willing recipients, quite demanding recipients actually. One in particular demanding recipient being my grandmother, who really want me to knit a sweater for them. So I've decided that I need to finish this, which is a scrap jumper, and then I do want to do something, you know, finish off one of my old whips, and maybe like a third project, so maybe 3 projects out of my existing yarns for Stashless before I allow myself to buy a sweater quantity as the gift knitting. So I know what yarn I want to buy. The reason I have to buy it is because I haven't got anything suitable in terms of like colour and yarn weight and the rest of that for the gift recipient. So yeah, I just want to get a few more things done and out of the way before I purchase anything. So yeah, I need to hurry up because I'm already feeling like I want to cast on new things, even though they, you know, they are new things from my existing yarns and patterns, but I'm just trying to live by the lessons that I had to remind myself through the Crimson WIPalong, which is just get stuff finished. Just get stuff finished. Sometimes you have to force yourself to finish things, and that's because when you start something new, you get that thrill, it's shiny, it's fun, it's the rush, and then other things just kind of, I'm looking back at my orange cardi, you know, the last stages is like the final push and the final hurdle, but you just have to push yourself through them. So yeah, that's that. That was a crochet hook falling on the floor. I made a large modification, which is that I did the body in the round, as you can see there, because it's crocheted in pieces, and I thought, what's the point of that? Who wants to do any more seaming and end weaving and then they have to? So I did it in the round up to the armpits. I initially forgot to split for the front torso section. I forgot to do that initially, and I got up to here, so I did like 4 inches, and then I had to unravel it all, which was really annoying. But it was quick enough to get back onto speed with half of the garment, and then yeah, just need to do some more of the torso. And then the sleeves hopefully will be quicker. So that is my eclectic jumper. And again, it's a matter of kind of trusting in my instincts, because when I first started it, I was looking at the colours and I was thinking, wow, why did I get a bee in my bonnet? Why did I get so obsessed with this pattern? Because it's clearly insane, and I'm gonna look mad, and I'm gonna look like a children's TV presenter. But I stuck with it, I persevered, I thought, well, I'm here now, I might as well continue. And actually, again, same with this caterpillar jumper, when I have more of the colour sequence going, it kind of starts to fall into place a bit more and make a bit more sense. And also the bright blue sections dull things down slightly, so it's not too bad. So yeah, just got to stick with this one. I don't have any mending this episode after the epic mending session that I had before, but I will probably have some for next video. Just thinking about all of the things that have to be mended. So let's go straight into the last section of the podcast, which is conversational threads. And I'm going to start by talking about Warm Hands. So as I said, Jeanette Sloan sent me a copy of Warm Hands to review on the podcast, and she is one of the editors. She's listed first, and Kate Davies, who runs the publishing company, is second. I expect that you all know Kate Davies. I've been following her work for a very, very long time. From like the earlier days of knitting blogs, when her blog was called Needled and she was a working academic. That's when I followed her first, like I was a teenager, I think. Well, not I think, I know. It was a long time ago. So it's been really interesting to follow her career progression and change, and obviously her health changes, for those of you who know. And this is an edited collection in that it is a compilation of all different types of mitten designs from different designers, approximately half of which are what they call established designers, and the other half are newer names. And Jeanette Sloan was really thrilled to point out to me that half of the designers were also people of colour. So that's obviously really brilliant and ties in perfectly with the company called BIPOC in Fibre, which Jeanette runs also, which is about promoting the existence and the work of a diverse range of people that work in the fibre industry from a diverse range of ethnic and racial backgrounds. So let's get on to the book. So firstly, I just want to say that on the Kate Davies Designs blog, there is a very, very in-depth look at all of the patterns that are available. So if you want to have like more in-depth glances at the inside of the book, that is available for free on her website already. So, you know, in order to respect copyright and all of the rest of that, I'll just direct you over there to get a more detailed glimpse at the inside of the book. But I will start by showing the front page, which is this gorgeous, gorgeous assemblage of all of the patterns that are inside. So it's called Warm Hands, and all of the patterns are for things you put in your hands. And there are gloves, fingerless mittens, mittens, fingerless gloves, and there are long patterns, and there are lots of short patterns that just go around the hand. And for me, what really, really stands out in this book is the way that the boldness of the concept ties through all the way across the book as an object. So the kind of taste of things that you get on the front cover, with the nuanced yet striking use of colour, the sense of pattern and the styling, you know, that visual sense is carried on all through the book. And that is something that I enjoy about it the most. Now, obviously, as a compendium of 15 designs, there's kind of something for everyone in here. And I was so happy to receive this book because I thought that loads of the patterns of the little fingerless gloves would be great for stash busting things, you know, using up materials that I already have. And they'd also be really good for gifts. And yeah, there really is something for everyone. There's like a lot of colour work, to colour and more. There's lace and cables, which is my favourite type of thing, and there's a range of different stitch patterns and techniques to push you. So if gloves are your thing, then you're probably going to be quite happy working through many of the patterns in this book. So going back to the kind of graphic design, so as you can see here, there's a pair of stranded colourwork mittens, and then the motif from the mitten is carried across into the graphic design of the introductory text, and this kind of thing happens all the way throughout, and it's the reason why this as an object is really nice to have as a book, as opposed to just a kind of digital download kind of thing, because yeah, it's really the graphic and bold sense of the knitwear design is extended through to the book design. I feel like I keep saying the phrase book as object, but it's because I've been reading texts about material culture and object analysis for my doctorate methodology this week, so it's quite a topical thing. But it's also a reason why this publication really stands out, and also the fact that the paper of the front cover is matte, and it's got a really nice feeling, so it's literally tangible. So it's quite nice that it produces, you know, tangible as in like you can touch it, things on your hands out of an object that's tangible, so it kind of ties all the way around. So I think as a kind of showcase book, obviously it's an edited collection, so it's drawing together loads of different styles, and I think that it really represents the two editors quite well, and both of their taste is reflected very nicely in the book, and obviously the model's really, really beautiful and young. So another thing that I found quite enjoyable and entertaining about the design of this book was the fact that they've got these two young girls playing on their smartphone on the book's back cover. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's why I wear fingerless mittens. It's so that I can access my phone and my digital devices. So I feel like it's kind of, it's very beautiful, but it's also like quite realistic, as opposed to like these kind of fantastical notions of living in a land of ice and snow, which I know are true for some people living in the far northern hemisphere, but for the vast majority of people, we need to think of ways in which to integrate our knitting and our knitwear into our daily lives, which are much more suburban, at least for me. So warm hands, thumbs up from me. It's a really fun book, and it's something that I've really enjoyed browsing. So thank you very much to Jeanette for sending me this copy. And more details about this book and where to purchase it can be found in the down bar here below. Just to clarify, I should have said this earlier, I am not being paid for this review. I just got sent the book for free, but it's my honest opinion, as it always would be, and you shouldn't expect anything less on the Crimson Stitchery. So that's the book review, and the last thing to do is to announce the prizes for the Crimson WIPalong, which was our knit along initiative that ran over last autumn up till the end of the year. There are loads of prizes, so a big thank you to all of our prize donors, which include Wool and the Gang, the company which sell knitting and crochet kits. So thank you so much to Wool and the Gang for donating those prizes. Prizes were also donated by a range of designers and podcasters, so there are lots of Ravelry pattern prizes to be won. Thanks so much to Jacqueline Salem, who has the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast, Melinda, who has a podcast called Yarned Woman, Also, Banny Redesigns, who donated a shawl pattern, and Tess Young, whose username is Tess Vintage Knits, also donated some of her recent patterns. So thank you so much to all of you for donating prizes. So let's get on to the prize draw. It's a little bit complicated. I used random number generator to pick out the prize winners from the discussion threads on Ravelry. And it was entirely random, and the premise was that if someone's name came up again, I'd draw again, and if my name came up, I'd discount the draws. So there are two grand prizes from Wool and the Gang, which are a sweater kit of the winner's choice from the Cozy collection. So I was given the Amanda sweater to review and try out, and I love Wool and the Gang's kits. I think that they're fantastic. The finished product is so lovely, and it's an opportunity to try out something new for me, and hopefully for you as well. So there's two kits to be won of the winner's choice, but from the Cozy collection only. Put that there. So the two winners are from the chatter thread, it's Ellis J, and from the WIPalong winners thread, it's A Jane. So Ellis J and A Jane, congratulations on winning the grand prize. Please get in touch with me. Please send me an email to thecrimsonstitchery@gmail.com. You need to tell me your address, and you need to tell me what you've chosen from the Cozy collection, which kit, the colour, the size, any bells and whistles. So please send me an email as soon as possible so that I can get in contact with Wool and the Gang. And for the next lot of prizes, which are all PDF download prizes, please send me a message on Ravelry. So don't send me an email, send me a message on Ravelry. My username is @sourtelling. And get in touch with me about your prize. So just to reiterate, the Wool and the Gang main prizes, I need an email, and everybody else I need a message on Ravelry. The next prize has been donated by Yarned Woman, which is a pattern of the winner's choice up to $7 US. And the person that has won that from the winner's thread is Anna Puzen. The winners of the Grisham shawl pattern donated by Banny Designs. From the chatter thread, it's Philippa MC. And from the winners thread, it's Hepton Stall. The winners of your choice of patterns by Jacqueline Salem, who has the Brooklyn Knitfolk podcast. From the chatter thread, it's Neolokis and Norma G. And from the winner thread, it's Nadal Salat, Ellie Loves Gold, and Tess Vintage Knits. So please send me a message on Ravelry telling me which pattern it is that you would like from Jacqueline Salem. And lastly, so Tess, you won a pattern by Jacqueline Salem, and Tess also donated some patterns, which is really lovely. So the winners of the Tito Alba PDF download pattern from the chatter thread, it's Leek and Stephanie Sews. And from the winners thread, it's Well Woman. So I hope that that all made sense, and a big congratulations to all of our winners, and thank you so much for everybody for participating and making such a successful initiative. I'm so glad that so many of you are joining me into this next year of Stashless 2020. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching along. Do give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. Don't forget about the newsletter sign up, and also about my talk on the Sunday at Unravel Festival of Yarn at Farnham Maltings. Lastly, please do leave me a comment and let me know if you have started any scrap projects yet from your yarns, and what you think of my two scrap jumpers that I'm doing, my knitted and my crochet one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you for another podcast episode in a fortnight. Take care. Bye bye.